found it funny when I heard about it by Vishen Lakhiani. What he was saying is 50% of your goal is going to be bad 50% of your time, 50% of the time, right? So I was thinking, when I started my course on performance optimization, I was thinking about innovations that happens uh, at the beginning of any enterprise that is started. So 70 to 80% of innovations go bad during the first year of any enterprise that is being set up, and it is so badly managed, at least in India, that those enterprises never get revived again, and that kills the dream of so many people who are involved with it. So it is a very sad kind of scenario in India. And when so what I had in mind is, I would have enough circulation that will sustain this kind of initial setbacks that is encountered with this kind of enterprises. That is the only way one can encourage this aspiring people, entrepreneurs, to get ahead and keep on going, right? And that also means that there will be first time, second time, or third time failure even in some of the cases, and those need to be supported, because if somebody starts with not enough initial exposure, and we do not expect people to uh, follow something already has been done, right? We need to have innovations, otherwise we are not going to progress much. All the if we look at the businesses that have evolved over last 10 or 15 years of time, those have been innovated, right? And those innovations needed to be supported, and many of them, like say what we see to be successful today, are just a tiny percentage of what has been initiated, right? So we what we don't see are the failed enterprises which actually gave some learnings to these businesses which are successful today. So these successful innovations, these successful businesses today owe their success to those failures, right? So so this becomes a responsibility of the society, everybody, to uh, own those failures also. We need to have space for those innovations as well, which are not pre-tested. It was never tested, and those will should be tested sometime. No, so whenever it is tested, it is due to have those failures. And even if there is enough pre-testing has been done, but because of the different kind of person, different kind of circumstances keep on changing all the time, and the market economy is very very dynamic. So the um, the circumstance of that innovation, that business changes, and it is also liable to failure if started now. So if it is not getting started by a group of people with sufficient backup, then any individual enterprise that has this challenge of um, going bad half of the time. So how do we kind of put a number to it? Supposing each enterprise requires 10 million rupees, that means 1 crore of rupees per enterprise. And if we are looking at 1 crore of people to go for enterprises, then it is 1 crore multiplied by 1 crore, which is roughly um, 10,000 billion of dollars or more maybe. So it's very difficult to calculate. maybe it is 1 lakh billion. So the zeros, no, if you add one more zero, it becomes 1 lakh, and that means um, 5,000 billion dollars is supposed to go bad half of the time. And it is supposed to go bad, right? It doesn't mean that it will be wiped out, and it is going to be completely lost. The business, because it is half the time it is likely to go bad, it means the other half of the time it is going to go good. So that means the cash flow, once it is bad, it can be managed and revived to be good as well, with proper management and proper planning. So but do we give that kind of space to a failure, the initial failure? No, most of the time we don't give that particular time required for the revival, and and the inspiration, and also the support that is required for a revival, right? And that is how, and it is may not be possible individually, so it becomes a social responsibility. So the entire country, the entire community, they have to be supportive of this thing. So it cannot be just one person who is going to go bad. It is like, if we are going to have a change in our community, we we want to have a transformation of some kind happening in our society, then we need to look at this kind of numbers and this kind of events, this kind of enterprises more closely. And these numbers are very important. So the entire global economy right now is at 142 trillion. 142 trillion is what? It is 142 lakh crore. So it is still way below than what we are just looking at the India number, right? So it kind of, like, say, we haven't looked at the economy, the global economy, the way we are thinking. 50% of time, the 50% of our efforts are going to go bad. So what it implicates, we haven't ever looked at numbers like that. So it is a huge number and almost looks impossible. So what is a goal? A goal is something which makes one uncomfortable and looks impossible for most of the time. When one starts, it is an impossible thing. That is how it inspires. Unless it is something impossible, it doesn't inspire. That is one. And if it is easily achievable with some effort, then the goal is not sufficiently high, and it kinds of just a mimicry of whatever goal setting that we are doing. So we should look at something very impossible and make it possible. All the things, all the innovations, all the successes, those are as a result of these impossible dreams, right? So if we are looking at those things, then a huge mindset change is to be in place. Like, say, it is very easy to say that 50% of time your your efforts are going to be bad half of the time. So it's a very funny thing, very very funny kind of phrase, and we should accept that 50% of time, uh, our 50% of our goals are going to go bad, and we need to revive ourselves from that also. So in the context of getting an Atmanirbhar Bharat, actually it is a huge kind of goal. And whether we have put the numbers in front of us to have a realistic view and the kind of ecosystem that it requires, it is something of it's a questionable kind of uh, issue that we are looking at. And so, for a second, let us assume that this is something very practical. Then what we are looking at is we are thinking of a collective economy. We are looking at a collective wealth, that wealth which gives equal opportunity to everybody. Everybody has a right to fail, that is ensured under this kind of economy, this kind of mindset. Do we have that right now in our society, that kind of mindset? That requires, like say, a little evidence is required. No, somebody, if we are asking somebody to fail half of the time and we are allowing that failure, then we should give him some evidence of our support by ensuring that equal opportunity is there for everybody, right? Are we ensuring that in the first place? So that is the first factor in an ecosystem that needs to be ensured. And yeah, so it is a huge kind of shift that every economy is going to have. It cannot be done only in India. Suppose we are not looking at 1 crore, even a smaller number, one tenth of that number, also is going to have a huge implication in the economy, and that also requires a huge shift and entire transformation of the ecosystem. And the first thing in the mindset of everybody is has to be the supporting kind of mindset. At the way we look at the enterprises, the businesses, the innovations has to change. It is not there right now. And even though many of us are trying to establish our own businesses, and but still we are under certain kind of uncertainty about the way we will be facing the market and the community that we are part of, whether they are going to support us, and whether this community is empowered enough to support us towards getting to this kind of goal is something questionable. So I was getting into a very deep contemplation with regard to this 50% of time, the failure of 50% of our goals. It is not an easy thing, not a small thing, and in the context of the entire population, it is really a huge thing. But coming back to an individual perspective, can we accept that 50% of our goals are not going to succeed 50% of the time? Only 50% of the time. Yes, it is. The other 50% of time, it will come back into revival. Yes, and then we will take another innovation, and that is how the goal actually crosses its bar. It always raises its bar, and it it is in the process of evolving, right? And so if that kind of cycle, this kind of cycle is ensured to be continued, then at each stage, just after the success, we need to have another innovation, and that is how the evolution keeps happening. And the transformations that we are thinking of, we cannot continue in a particular success for infinite time, right? That success needs to be rephrased, rewritten, and re-experienced, and reformatted as well. So it, that is how it becomes, like say, otherwise it just becomes a chance success, right? It has to have a characteristic of getting success with this kind of formula. 50% of time it will fail, but the another 50% of time it will be on the revival, and that is when one needs to again go to a higher goal, and that is how the entire cycle continues, and that is how one evolves, transforms. And transformation is not a static process. Once reached to a goal, that goal becomes achievable. It becomes an instance, for example, for other people to follow, but it always needs to be raised to the next level for other people who are just following. They need to have something in front of them, and that is how the risks will ultimately be minimized. See, the first person who is failing, the next person is going to learn from this failure, and the amount of risk that the other person has will be reduced. So ultimately, this risk percent will be minimized if this is a process and this is a culture, right? Should we not be responsible for this kind of transformation? It should not be an individual transformation, right? Otherwise, it will not make any sense. This has to inspire a whole lot of people to take whatever we have undertaken, right? And that is how, that is what a leader is. That is what leadership is all about. Always to lead from the front and risking the failures and constant failures. 50% of the time is going to fail according to this formula, right? So this is the mm, tendency, or what this is the characteristic, we can see characteristic of an ever evolving, transforming kind of mindset. And yeah, this is all about the growth, the personal growth that we are looking at. And uh, that is how a bigger goal is achieved. And this is the first thing, the personal development, the mindset change is the main thing, and everything else is subservient to this. Once this mindset is achieved, then the other things will follow. And one should not be worried about I say it is very easy saying than done, but that is the mindset we need to cultivate, right? 50% of time, 50% of our goals will have a failure, and let us accept that. And the next time we fail, we should say that that is the 50% of time happening, right? So the other 50% of time of the day will see a success, right? Let us put in put it into an hourly thing. Every hour, if for the first 30 minutes, if it is a failure, then the other 30 minutes will be a success, by learning from the first 30 minutes, right? And it may be the next 30 minutes that will see the failure. So it leads to the other hour. So that is how the entire day can be also seen. It may not be over a period of time. It is within a day we can see many ups and downs, and that is accepted according to our own plan. That is the mindset one needs to cultivate to have the transformation. Yeah.